Thanks for coming out. My name is Willcott. I'm a physiotherapist, kinesiologist, and also certified exercise physiologist. Roy asked me to come in and do a seminar on how to avoid injury when you're starting exercise. And I can be found also at Advantage Physiotherapy. We're over on the north side on Main Street. Just to get started. Obviously there's going to be people that are starting exercises for the first time. Maybe some of you are already doing an exercise program. But I wanted to kind of break it down into people who, maybe if you've already had an injury and you're starting an exercise program. If you've had an injury, then I would recommend that you get screened by a physiotherapist first. So maybe if you've had knee surgery or maybe you've injured your back, get screened by a physiotherapist who will do a physical exam and just determine what's an appropriate place for you to start in terms of exercise. Or the other group of people, maybe you have a medical condition, so perhaps you have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. It's a good idea to get screened by your family physician just to let them know, look, I'm going to start an exercise program. I know I have high blood pressure. What is it safe for me to do? And then the other side of it too is I get asked a lot about whether or not a person needs a personal trainer. And it all depends on what your fitness goals are. If you're just starting out and you've never exercised before, then you're going to go to a gym, then yes, I'd recommend that you get a personal trainer and have somebody show you the appropriate exercises, how to use the equipment. If you're looking to just start out, maybe your goal is to attend the gym 3 times a week, lose 5 pounds, be able to run 3 miles, then you don't need to have 50 sessions of personal training. Maybe you need to start out with 10 sessions and spread them out over a few months. When looking for a personal trainer, a few questions that you should ask is, what's their level of certification? A lot of people don't realize that when it comes to personal training, anybody can call themselves a personal trainer. It's not regulated, so you want to be careful with what their level of certification is and ask for it. Ask what courses they've taken. They should hold some form of insurance as well. So they actually have their own insurance in case you were to get injured. Years of experience. It's not all about years of experience. If somebody has just 1 year experience, they can probably do a great job. But if you've had a total knee replacement or you have high blood pressure, then maybe you want to ask if they've worked with people that have those types of problems. And again, just go over your fitness goals. If you're planning on trying to run a marathon, then you probably want somebody that has a background in training marathon runners, and you probably may need more personal training sessions for that. So again, it just goes back to what your goals are. If any time during this talk you guys have questions, just feel free to ask me. It's fairly informal. So to start, the first section I'll talk about is warming up. It's always important that you warm up your body before you start exercising. You never want to go into a gym, get changed, and just jump in and start lifting weights. That could lead to an injury. So typically we recommend that you start with a good 15-minute warm-up. And you want to try to raise your heart rate and try to get the blood flowing through your muscles and joints. When we talk about raising heart rate, you don't want to go into the gym and jump on a treadmill and go into full sprints. We just want you to try to get your heart rate up to about what we say is 60% of your maximum heart rate. So to figure that out, there's a general rule where you take 220 minus your age and then you multiply by 60%, and that will give you what you should try to raise your heart rate to when you're warming up. So for somebody who's 40 years old, it'd be 220 minus 40 is 180. Multiply that by 60% and you're shooting for about 108. So when you warm up, I would recommend either checking it yourself, either like on your neck, on the carotid artery, or on your wrist, and just count for 15 seconds the number of beats and multiply by 4, and that'll give you an idea if you're getting your heart rate up high enough. When you are exercising, there is a target heart rate zone that you should be shooting for. So after you've warmed up, if you are doing cardiovascular activity, there's a range that you do want to get your heart rate into. So we typically recommend 60 to 90% of your maximum heart rate. So again, back to this person who's 40 years old, you would take 180 multiplied by 60%, gives you 108. That's your minimum that you want to get your heart rate to. And then by 90% is 162. So for a 40-year-old person, you want to be getting your heart rate between 108 and 162 when you exercise, and then hold it there. And that's how you'll get cardiovascular benefit when you exercise. You don't want to be up in that 160 range the whole exercise. You're working too hard. So you just want to try to maintain that range. Any questions about target heart rates? When it comes to eating before exercise, you want to avoid eating fatty foods before you go and do a workout. They're harder to digest, so they'll be still digesting as you're trying to work out, and that can lead to cramping, nausea. You'll probably have to stop your exercise. Also, high protein foods, they're harder to digest, so they take longer for them to go through your digestive system. So typically we stick with carbohydrates. So 1 to 2 hours before, you want to try to eat something high in carbohydrates. So you can get into fruits, vegetables, yogurt, basic energy bars. There used to be, at one time, go back 30, 40 years, everybody was told to eat a high protein diet. The theory was that if you eat high protein, it was good for your muscles. So right up into professional athletes, they would eat steaks before hockey games or before going on the field, and they thought that that was the best thing. So we now know that carbohydrates is a better option. You also want to make sure you're hydrated too. Drink lots of water before you exercise. Avoid lots of caffeine before you go to the gym.
Avoid the coffee.
Yeah, before you work out. What they'll do is they'll elevate your heart rate, so that when you're trying to follow that target heart rate zone, when they're already up, so it kind of throws it off a little bit. You'll see some people who are into heavy weightlifting, they will put the caffeine to them before they work out, thinking that they'll get a little more boost when they're lifting weights. But for the most part, I would avoid caffeine a couple hours before you work out. So after you've warmed up, now your muscles are a little looser, you've got blood flowing through them. Now it's a good idea to stretch. This gets missed a lot. A lot of people sort of don't put much emphasis on stretching, and they go right into their workout. But this is an important way to try to avoid an injury. You want to focus mainly on your large muscles. Spend maybe 10 to 15 minutes stretching. You could go through all kinds of stretches and try to get at every muscle in your body. It's not necessary. You could be at it for hours. But at least make sure you make it a habit to make that a good 10 or 15 minutes of your workout. The major muscles I'd focus on is your calf muscle, quadriceps muscle, something at your shoulders, and then maybe your neck as well. If you get at those areas, then you're probably going to hopefully avoid an injury. When it comes to stretching, you want to hold the stretch for at least 15 to 20 seconds. So when you see people at the gym and they do that and they do this, they're not really getting any benefit to the stretch. So you want to make sure you hold that stretch, and then you repeat it 3 to 5 times. So if I'm stretching my quadricep muscle here, I would hold for 15, 20 seconds, and then relax, and then repeat it 3 to 5 times on each side. Again, back to make sure you're warmed up before you do this. Being hydrated is important as well. So make sure you've drank lots of fluids before you work out. That will help with the stretching. You don't want to bounce when you stretch. So you see people up against the wall and they get to stretch, and then they're sort of like pounding backwards on the muscle, trying to get a good stretch. That could tear a muscle fiber or a tendon. So we don't want you to bounce. You just want to feel like it's just a gentle stretch. So if I'm stretching my calf, as soon as I lean back and I feel a pull, then you just hold it there. You don't want to have to go any further. And there shouldn't be any pain. You're not trying to create pain when you're stretching. It just feels like the muscle is pulling.